Hey everyone, Andrew here. In this video we're going to do a kind of behind the scenes onto the computer side of how I make my music. And in particular, this is my song The Hunt from my album Dreams Don't Die. I haven't opened up this file in like years, just because, after I finish a song I typically never go back to it unless I'm doing like a remix or something. So I haven't been back to this in a while, so I thought it'd be fun to use this as kind of like a way to show my behind the scenes of how I make music, and it'd be cool to revisit an older track. Not that much older, it's only like a year and a half or 2 years, but a track that I don't have, like, it's not fresh in my mind compared to like something I made last week or anything. So let me fire up the headphones here, share my screen. This is what I use to record my videos. It's a software called OBS. It's free, so if you have any interest in making videos or doing live streams, this is kind of like the software. I mean, if you're curious about how I do my whole video stuff, feel free to hit me up in the reply to the email you got this video from, and I'll tell you. I'll tell you exactly the gear I use and the software setup. But yeah, we are recording. We see my screen, so I'll turn this down. We see me in the corner. So this is my song, The Hunt. Hopefully on the page that you're watching this video on, or whatever, you might have clicked to go to YouTube to watch the video there, but the page that you were on will have a link to the song, so you can hear the song itself in its entirety to kind of have an idea of like what the final product is. Just because when streaming it from here, it can be a little like clicky, just because of my computer not being strong enough to run this software and record video. It's kind of a lot for a computer to ask for, even though this is like a $3,000 maxed out iMac. It still struggles a little bit with this stuff. So yeah, let's just start at the beginning. So that's the intro of the song. We still get something echoing. There's a lot of layers going on there that you might not notice. So obviously there's this piano. But I see there's also a layer here. So this is the drums. And it's like super filtered and mixed in the back, so you might not even notice it. It's kind of there to keep the beat. There's all these little layers, like there's this lo-fi effects thing. Just there to kind of, I guess, create a cloud or an atmosphere. And then a couple of these other layers come in just to swell up. Like this is just swelling up to hit into that drop there. But I think there's other stuff going on. I think there's some vocals that are mixed in. Yeah, here we go. So there's this vocal that you might not have directly noticed. And I'll open up, I'm not going to open up every plugin and show you every single layer because we'd be here for days, but this is like a granular plugin, so it gets this vocal part, which I'll turn this off for now. And this plugin turns it into this. So it like breaks it up into a million little pieces and kind of like scatters it around basically. And then there's another vocal layer in here where I'm using this plugin that like pitches it down an octave. And another one here. And all of that is going on in the background that you might not notice. I'll play just like a little bit. There's some of the glitches I mentioned with the computer, just a lot to process, all these layers. But you see, like, that's kind of the thing a lot of people don't realize. Let me just make sure everything's fine here. With music is there's always like a lot more going on behind the scenes that you don't directly hear. So if you've never seen like a behind the scenes session like this, you might be like, what? Yeah, and the cool thing with this piano, again, if you're not familiar with how music is made, is this is a virtual instrument. So this is like it's like a software of pre-recorded individual piano notes. So like I'll pull this up. So it's like I can still, let me discard all errors. I can like hit a note in my keyboard. And I can play individual notes, but it's pre-recorded. So it's like almost like a software instrument of just thousands of recordings of individual piano notes to make it sound realistic. Anyway, so when we come into the drop, there's a whole bunch of layers happening. So I'll try, if I solo this group. By the way, this is software, I probably should have said this at the beginning, this is software called Ableton Live. It's what's known as a digital audio workstation. So like tracks run, time runs left to right, tracks are up and down. So you have all these, it's just a way to manage sounds, basically. So when I solo this group, I'm soloing like a bunch of different sounds. So if we hear that. And you already can hear a lot more that's going on. Oh, something's echoing. If I solo just this synth, that's one sound. And if I solo this synth, that's another sound. And then we get another one. And then another one. Which is very similar to this other one. And then lastly, I think this is like a bass. Then we got the piano in there, and then eventually these leads, which actually won't work now. I don't have the plugin, the software that I use to make these three sounds here, but you would hardly notice them anyways, I believe, because they're pretty much doing what this sound is doing. So like all that stuff's happening when you hear this come in. Think of all the like 7 layers we just heard. And then on top of that, there's these O's, which are like a recorded vocal I process the hell out of. And then eventually this other one that comes in. Give me the light, give me the light. There's a ton of stuff going on, and the art of making music is about, one, it's like, writing the song and getting the melodies and the chords and the lyrics and the vocals, but then making it into a recorded song is about like what layers do you choose, where do you put them, how do you mix them all together so it doesn't sound like mush. And that's like, there's a lot of trial and error that goes behind this. Like, it's not like when I wrote this song, I'm like, oh, I need to have this part over there, and this part panned over here, and then this other like really gritty one, and this really high-passed one here, and on top of this piano, you kind of start with one, and then you add a few more, and you're tweaking, and you end up with all this stuff that, like, if I turned off a lot of this, you might not necessarily, so I'll leave on like one of these synths, for example. And then I'll turn them back on. It's like you might not be able to hear the difference in just that like sample, especially when it's recorded over like a video, you lose some quality, but I can hear a pretty substantial difference. It sounds a lot thinner and smaller and less like rich. And it's just trial and error. You add some sounds, blend them, and see what sounds best. So that's kind of like, this kind of just repeats throughout the song, like things turn off and come back on. But I think now that kind of sums up how the instruments work. Let's go to the vocals. And this is only, so all these tracks down here are all the vocals. But the way I actually do it is I use another software called Logic Pro, where I get the instrumental from this Ableton file, export it, import it into Logic, and cop car driving by. I record all the vocals, and like, this looks like a lot of tracks here. Like there's like 4, 8, maybe like 10 or 12 tracks here. But in reality, the real vocal recording session was probably like 25 to 30 tracks, because I'm like this part here might actually be 4 different vocal parts that I exported as one. And same, like all of these things might be doubled or tripled. There might be harmony layers, multiple harmony layers. And that's just how I tend to do things. And actually these two aren't being used, so I'll turn them off. So I record them in another audio software, like really fine tune them, export them as like 4 or 5 files, then I split into like 10 files here. I guess it's actually more like 8. Just to make it simpler when I get here, because you see in this program, I'm already dealing with all of these layers. The last thing I want to think about is 25 vocal layers on top of it. So just keep that in mind, that when you hear like, I don't know, like this, you can even hear there's like way more than 1 vocal layer there. There's maybe like 4 or something. Turn on the light, turn on the sight. And that's really just comes down to like when I'm at this stage and making my music, I don't want to be thinking about, oh, should this vocal part be louder than this vocal part, and what effect should be on that vocal part compared to that vocal part. I really just want to like get the vocals as they're written and recorded and fine-tuned and perfected, and just like make them fit perfectly over the music, make transitions work better. And then if I really wanted to, I could go back to that other software, Logic, and fix them if something didn't work on this end. But yeah, so let's just listen to like how some of the vocals work. I'll solo all of the vocals, and you'll kind of have an idea of, actually, yeah, some of these are simplified. You had your chance to make it right. You're lying through your teeth, your sharp gaze, it haunts me. Those moments together, they can't last forever. And so there's these O's on top of it. I'll turn this off. And that's happening in the background underneath this. You're lying through your teeth, your sharp gaze, it haunts me. And you see how this main vocal track here actually has nothing on it? That's because all the processing's done ahead of time. But for something like this, or actually, maybe this one's a better example. I'm doing some fun vocal effects with this program called Manipulator. Oh, actually, I don't think I have this software registered on this computer. Since I've made this song, I've had like 2 different computers, or maybe 3 different computers, so some of these plugins I had to like turn off, but the plugin's still working, apparently. I just can't show you the interface. It's doing that fun vocal sounds if I mute this. Compared to with it on. And so it's just that super like robotic and glitchy. That's just because like when I was going into the chorus, I don't know, it just sounded boring just to have it just do this. I want it to sound like it's like falling apart, and then that's what this plugin kind of helped me do. And I also wanted it to fade in the background, and you might not be able to hear this, especially if you're watching this video on a phone or something, or bad speakers. I'm automating, and automating, by the way, every single parameter I've showed you, like you can change, like all these buttons down here, you can modulate these over time, and that's what I mean by automation. So I'm doing this thing where I'm changing the stereo width. So I'm making it like when it's playing in the verse, it's like this wide thing, and then I'm like making it go narrower and narrower as it gets towards the chorus, because I want it like to have this effect where like the verse is like this, and then it gets really, really narrow, and the chorus hits and it's super wide. And that's what a lot of choruses will do, is they'll try to sound as big and wide as possible. And that's why, you know, I'll do this in a lot of songs, maybe not with the stereo width, but with other methods. And that's kind of like a fun thing in this track. Let's see, we've been going for 14 minutes. So I think that's a pretty good like summary of this track. And you know, my hair's all messed up now. That's kind of like a good like introduction to like the behind the scenes of this track. Like if you see this video and you're like, wow, I really love to learn more about this and that, like feel free to hit me up with, you know, the email that you got this video from, and just let me know like if you want to see anything specific about anything, you know, and maybe I'll make it a video that I send out in a future newsletter, or maybe I'll just like straight up answer you if you're curious about something. Because typically, you know, I'm pretty much an open book about this stuff. There's no secrets when it comes to how I do anything. So yeah, I hope you found that insightful, exciting, entertaining, or something. But yeah, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.